Senator Hughes, thank you so much. Can you explain to the body what the doctrine, the vagueness doctrine is? The vagueness doctrine.
Yes, sir.
I know you're a very astute lawyer. I'm sure you know what the vagueness doctrine is in criminal law.
So the vagueness doctrine, as I understand it, and you help me out if I mess this up, vagueness relates to the concept that laws, criminal laws, have to give people notice so that they can order their conduct. If the laws are vague and people don't know what conduct is forbidden, then that's a problem. So vagueness has to do with making sure the law is clear.
That's right, because notice is important to our legal profession, to what we do in our laws. Notice, an opportunity to be heard. And then we have to have statutes that tell you these are the elements of what you did wrong and how you did it, correct?
Yes, sir, you got it.
All right. And so you actually are creating a new crime here called certain sexually oriented performances prohibited. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the elements that you suggest are: persons commit an offense, if regardless of whether the compensation, so whether it's free or not, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is expected or received, the person engages in a sexually oriented performance. And here's where I'm trying to get to this vagueness piece. The first section is it's got to be on public property, right?
Yes, sir.
Or, there's an or, in the presence of an individual younger than 18 years of age, right?
Sure.
You did say a kind of a misnomer here to Senator West. You said that that bars would be precluded, right? I think you said specifically that, but you could take your child to a bar, could you?
So Senator West mentioned about children not being able to attend bars. It probably depends on what's happening in the bar. If it's nude dancing, the law does not allow a child to be there, even with parental consent. But let me be clear. Whether it's a bar or a public auditorium, under this bill, if a child's present and it's a sexually oriented performance as defined by the bill, then it's a problem. Then it's going to be affected, regardless whether it's a bar or a civic center.
Well, let's get to the definitions here in your legislation. The word features in sexually oriented is defined as one, features a performer who is nude. That's the first part, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about a bodysuit, like a nude bodysuit?
So you'll notice it references section 102.051 of the Business and Commerce Code. That is the section dealing with sexually oriented businesses. So that definition has been in the law for decades. And so we're incorporating already well litigated and well understood phrases. That's why we reference section 102.051 of the Business and Commerce Code.
So if I go
there's already cases on this.
So if you go to an interpretive ballet, kind of these modern ballet deals, and the man and the woman are in these nude bodysuits and they're gyrating and twerking all over themselves, because that's what people do in interpretive dance, that doesn't violate your statute. I just want to be clear.
Well, we haven't gotten through all the elements yet, but sounds like so far so good.
So far so good. All right. And the second piece is or a male performer exhibiting as a female, or a female performer exhibiting as a male who uses clothing, makeup, or other physical markers, and who sings, lip syncs, dances, or otherwise performs before an audience. And then, of course, you have the catch-all, which, and, gotta have this, and appeals to the prurient interest in sex. Those are basically those three elements on that crime, correct?
Yes, sir. I believe that's right. That's correct.
All right. So let's talk about feature. What is your definition of feature in this context?
Well, Senator, we're talking about a performance in the context. And so, as you know, when a term isn't defined in statute, it takes its normal and customary meaning. So a feature is an element or a part of the performance.
Okay. And so if there's a brief nude cameo, is that enough to feature? Is that equal feature?
Well, Senator, again, we have to have all the elements. We have to have that prurient interest in sex element, which, as you know, has been litigated for decades at the federal and state level.
That's right. If there is someone in the audience who's also nude, so they're in the audience now and they're nude, or nude enough to meet the definition in the business code, is now this performance itself feature nudity if someone in the audience was nude?
Senator, this statute goes to the performance. And again, it's defined over in the penal code, the section we're dealing with here. And so there are two pieces. If you control the premises with that performer, you're in control and you allow that performance to take place, you've got some civil liability. If you're a performer doing this in front of a child, you've got some criminal liability. As you know, this is all about children.
But
only applies with children.
Okay, but if you're in the audience and you decide to take your clothes off and twerk with somebody, you're okay. That's not violative of your...
Essentially, as a practical matter, just like today, at a business regulated under the Business and Commerce Code, if that happened, that establishment would decide whether to control the premises, whether to allow that. If they allow that, they're allowing their performance.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get some more definition here. When you go into what does it mean to have a male performer exhibit as a female, what kind of clothes are we talking about? Are we talking about dresses?
Well, Senator, again, when a term is not specifically defined, it takes its normal and customary usage. So yes, a man dressing as a woman dressing as a man. As you know, that's what we've been discussing pretty much the whole time this bill has been up.
So dresses?
For example, that's right.
Two-piece bathing suits?
I beg your pardon?
Bikinis?
What's the question?
Does that mean that you're dressing as a woman?
Well, Senator, that's part of what's required under the bill. As you know, prurient interest in sex, children present, each of the elements has to be here before any liability, criminal or civil, is triggered.
I'm just trying to figure out the clothes piece, that's all. Just want to know what clothes are appropriate that you object to.
Well, Senator, it's the question, what would be objectionable for a child? I bet most of us can agree that we don't want children in front of sexual performances. Surely we can agree on that.
Absolutely. If I don't want my kid to see something, I don't have them see something. Simple as that.
Well, Senator, you're not in the majority on that one, but go ahead.
Long robes without pants?
I beg your pardon?
Long robes without pants, does that?
Again, if you look at the context, it goes to what is featured, what's part of the performance.
How about earrings?
I beg your pardon?
How about earrings? Earrings
in their normal customary and usage would not be seen as a man dressing as a woman or a woman dressing as a man.
What kind of footwear do you find objectionable?
Senator, the question is not what I find objectionable. The question is what type of sexual performances are we going to allow in front of children? That is the question here, as you well know.
Right. How much of that clothing does someone have to wear to meet the element of the crime?
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
There is a component about dress here, and it's absolutely a male performer exhibiting as a female who uses clothing, makeup, or other. So that's why I'm asking you, because it's in your bill.
Go ahead.
So I'm just trying to figure out what clothing is objectionable here.
Well, it's clothing.
What clothes can't a female performer wear?
It's clothing, makeup, or other similar physical markers exhibiting as a male. It's, as you know, we read the whole thing, the whole sentence in context, not just one word out of its context.
Miley Cyrus dressed as a man. Miley Cyrus, do you know who she is?
I do.
She dressed as a man. She put on some sort of addendum to her body and danced in a very sexually explicit way at a concert with a male dancer. Does that violate your bill?
Senator, if it appeals to the prurient interest in sex, as that term has been litigated for decades, and meets the other elements, that's really the question we're going to have to ask. As you know, as you and I both know, what's seen in public has changed over time, but this type of thing, a sexual performance that appeals to a prurient interest in sex, is not appropriate for minors.
Would you agree with me, Senator, that the police officer or the district attorney has to have some idea of the biological sex of the person that's dressed like this, right?
Senator, that's one element. As you know, if it's a sexual performance under this amendment performed by anyone, regardless of how they're dressed, they're going to be affected by this bill.
No, I know, but it says a male performing, exhibiting as a female. So how's the cop going to know? Is he going to peek under the dress?
Senator, as you know, that's an essential part of a drag show, the fact that one is appearing as a different gender. As you know, that's an essential element.
Well, I don't know if I'm at a drag show or not. I mean, how do I know that the sexuality of the performer? That's all I'm wondering.
Senator, as you know, between each element, there are ors, and then there's an and at the end. If it appeals to the prurient interest and meets any of those above prongs, it's captured by the bill. Because this is about protecting children. What should be done in the presence of children?
Man, I'm telling you, I've been all about this session about protecting children, my friend, and we haven't done a whole lot of protecting the children when it comes to guns and ammunition. I've been all about it this session, my friend.
I gave the audience in the gallery a warning earlier. You're welcome to be here. We do not allow outbursts. And if we have another outburst, I'll have to have the gallery cleared. You may listen respectfully, agree or disagree with what's being said, but no outbursts are allowed on any bill for either party in this gallery. We have decorum here, and I ask you to respect that, or I'll have to clear the gallery.
You're better than this.
Yeah, Senator Gutierrez. Senator Gutierrez, you need to confine your debate on this bill to the bill.
Fair enough. Let's talk about the purient interest of sex. You're right, it's been litigated forever. Means of sex act, not biological. Let's see. If there's a performance that exhibits a male performer in female clothes, and it does not engage in a performance that is prurient interest of sex, then that performer has not committed a crime, correct?
And that is correct. Under this bill, that's correct. The prurient interest is an essential element. There's
And
an aim there.
and you've codified the prurient interest in sex. It's actually in our penal code in section 4321, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I don't want to belabor the point, and I think everybody can find it. This definition is a codification of the Miller Standard, correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
The Supreme Court.
Not often used, right? Purient's kind of a different kind of word.
I beg your pardon?
Not generally known by lay people, prurient.
That's right. The courts have used it for a long time, lawyers and judges, and law enforcement knows what it means in this context.
So finally, to add up what I don't think is very clear in the language of your bill, in order to commit this violation, it has to be done in public property or in front of a child, correct?
That's correct, Senator.
So now we often talk about hypotheticals in this building, right?
I beg your
So
pardon?
you're at a parade on a public street. Parade on a public street. Two men are wearing dresses and holding hands. Holding hands, does that violate the law?
Senator, that does not appeal to the prurient interest in sex under any case that I'm aware of. If you have one, I'd love to see it.
Now, fair enough. So two men can hold hands in the parade and not violate the law. The same two men, dressed in women's clothing, they're in the parade and they kiss each other with their tongues. Does that violate the law?
Senator, the cases on prurient interest in sex have been around for a long time. Courts have dealt with this for a long time, and that is an essential element to qualify under this bill, appealing to the prurient interest in sex. And, of course, minors present or public property where minors would normally be present during that time.
A whole bunch of people want to know if kissing in public violates the law. We need to know that right now.
Senator, the prurient interest in sex has been defined for a long time, and you and I both know what it says.
Does two men in drag kissing each other walking down the street violate the law, yes or no?
Senator, prurient interest in sex is well defined by the courts. You know better than anybody on this floor. You and I both know, and that's my answer.
That's your answer?
That's my answer.
You're sticking to that, okay.
This is about protecting children, Senator, and you know it.
Listen, we can talk about protecting children all day long. You haven't done a whole lot. You haven't done a whole lot there. So, same parade.
Member Senator Gutierrez, we do have other senators who would like to speak. If you or ask questions, if you can focus on asking questions, would be helpful.
Does
to your other members.
Yes, sir. Does the municipality gives a parade permit to the organization that is organizing parade? Do they violate Section 2 of the bill?
Senator, under Section 2 of the bill, this is about the city being able to regulate ordinary performances. Section 2 just says that cities are not allowed to permit these kind of shows, sexual performances where children are present.
Gay pride parade.
Section 3 has to do with the performers and the Class A misdemeanor. Then Section 1 has to do with the civil penalty for the owner or one in control of the premises.
The gay pride parade where two people are walking down in drag and kiss each other. And if some officer thought that that violated the prurient section of the bill, if it was prurient sexual nature, does the city violate Section 2 of this bill if an activity like that occurs?
Senator, only if it appeals to the prurient interest in sex and meets the other elements of the statute. That's the only way any conduct is going to be captured by this bill.
Now, Senator, I'm going to vote against this bill, but I appreciate your interest in protecting kids. I sure could use your support in protecting the kids that are killed by gun violence in this state.
Senator Gutierrez, I'm going to give you one more warning. That's the last time. Stick to the topic of the issues that you're asking questions on, or you will not be recognized in the future. Okay? Stick to your topic, and you're welcome to the microphone. If not, I have to gavel you down. Thank you. Senator West, did you have a motion?
Mr. President, I'd ask that we recess briefly for about 15 minutes.
Any objection? Hearing none, we will stand in recess. Let's make it to till 45 to 3:45, so you have a little bit, about 20 minutes. Okay, thank you. We stand in recess to 3:45.